Hello YouTube Premium. We gotta wait for some commercials to roll here and the rest of the crowd to catch up with us. Oh, it looks like it happened already. Hello all you Rainbow Warriors and welcome to Wednesdays with MrTieDye. I of course am MrTieDye and I will be hosting the show today. So it looks like we already have a bunch of people in the house. So let's see, we got Alan and Chica, Uniquely Yours, Lacey, Becky, April, Lacey, Jewel. Let's see who else we got in the house. Looks like a bunch more just popped in. Saucy's here. Hello. Catherine, Juliana, Gwen, Casey. Okay, well let's get started. This looks like the crowd is piling in here. So I'm going to start out by thanking the new members. I thanked a bunch of these from last time, but then we had a whole bunch more sign up. So I'm just going to call them all out. So these are new members on my site. Thank you for your support. I appreciate all of you. We have Carrie, Danielle, Tia, Heather, Kelly, Shannon, Candace, Karen, Chris, Anuzo95, Dandelion Sunshine, Emily, Lucille, Louise, Allie, Izzy T, and Lauren. And for donations, we had Myatt to donate to my PayPal. And then also I learned we have a couple birthdays in the house. We have Joanne and Mel. So happy birthday to you guys. And thank you guys all for being here. Let me get this computer pushed back a little bit so we can get started. So today I'm doing tapestry, well, of course, but this one here is going to be Icosahedron. So it's one of the Platonic Solids and sacred geometry. So what I'm starting with here is a tapestry that's been soaked in soda ash. It's been spun out and then I folded it in quarters so that I could find the center here. So we're going to open this up. So this here is the folded edge right here. Let's see if I can get things out of the way here. Oh, looks like we have a couple new members signed up right now. We got Emily and Brian, both signed up to be members of my channel. Thank you. Like I say, I appreciate all of the support that you guys give me. So today we're going to tie this tapestry up, get it dyed, and then I'll move into the question and answer section and auctioning off the tapestry from last week. Sometimes I do answer a little bit of questions while I'm tying the tapestry, but this design is a little bit more detailed, so I won't be able to stop and answer many questions just because I want to stay focused. Oh, we got another member. Thank you, Mandy, for signing up to be a member of my channel. Once again, I appreciate all of the support. Okay, so to start out the Icosahedron, we're going to fold this into thirds. It's already folded into half, so we're going to fold this part into thirds. Like I say, this here is the center of my tapestry. This here is the exact middle. So from that point, I'm going to, let's see, oh, here it is, use my protractor, and I'm going to draw a line at 60 degrees. So that will help me then fold this into thirds. Here it is. And the other thing, if you are asking questions and they're ones that you want to direct at me, if you put them in all caps, they're easier for me to see. And let's see. What you sipping? Oh yeah, water. I'm sipping water there. If you put them in all caps, then they're easier for me to see. And then also Julie's in the back room, and she's usually doing kind of multitasking, so she's kind of paying attention to the chat room a little bit, but she's also doing some of her own stuff. So if the questions are in all caps, then it's easier for her to find them also, to bring them out to me. But like I say, most of the questions I'm going to try and answer as soon as I'm done tie-dyeing this, because this here is a little bit more of a detailed design. So I need to stay focused to make sure I don't miss any folds on this one. Let's see. I guess before I start, Bob asked what size bottles I prefer to work with. So if I'm doing just regular tie-dye, you know, spirals and stuff like that, then I like a 16-ounce bottle just because it holds a lot of dye. If I'm doing detailed work, then I use these little 4-ounce bottles with these metal tips. These bottles here I found on Amazon. There is a link on a bunch of my different videos where I'm using these bottles. But they're glue bottles, and you can find them on Amazon. The name is Benecrete. So, oh, thank you, Sharon, for the donation or the super sticker or whatever. I appreciate that. I love all the support. However you guys want to give it to me. And even one other way that doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time when you're watching my videos, if you let the ads roll, then I get a piece of that advertising money. So that's a way to support me without spending any money. So, okay, so we're going to get this folded over. So I drew this line at 60 degrees here, and then I folded this edge up and just lined it up right on top of that line. And I'm going to fold this other edge up and just line it up right there. And then I just kind of smooth things out, make sure everything is nice and flat. If I have any creases, I try to get in there and smooth them out.
Would you like me to leave the air on?
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So that's my first two folds for the Icosahedron. Then from there, I'm going to make a little mark out here at my outer edge. This here's the outer edge of the tapestry. Okay, yeah, you can see that. So I'm not going to go all the way out to there with my Icosahedron. I'm going to have a little bit of a border. So I think I'm going to come out this far here. So we're going to make a couple lines on here. Once again, using my protractor. I'm going to line it up here. This here's the outer edge that I just marked. This is how big the icosahedron is going to be. So I'm going to draw one line on here at 60 degrees. Then I'm going to draw my second line at 40 degrees. So I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to extend those all the way out to the edge here. And both of them, once again, are coming from this mark that I made on here. This is the outer edge of where I want my icosahedron to end. This other mark is the edge of the tapestry, so that I'll put about a 5-6 inch border around the icosahedron. So I'm just going to extend this line all the way out to the edge here. So this here is the one that's at 60 degrees. Okay, and now I'm going to draw the other one out here at 40 degrees. Once again, I'm going to come right off of that same mark there, the outer edge. Okay, so there's my two of my lines. I'm going to draw one more on here, and this one I'm going to use my 90-degree corner here, and it looks like I worked that out just perfect. But I'm coming from the line I drew at 40 degrees coming out here, and then all the way up here at the point right at the edge, I'm going to draw a 90-degree line straight down from there. So I'm just lining up my 90-degree edge right here, and then I'm going to draw my line down. So those are three of my lines, and then the last line is this edge between these two lines. So usually what I'll do is just go along and make my little marks here to remind myself to dye this little edge here. So I just take a marker and I just make little lines here. You don't have to make quite this many, but I'm just trying to make it very visible that this here is the other line, and this here is, like I say, the edge here where I folded the tapestry up, and that's in between the 60 and the 40-degree line here. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is draw these same lines on the bottom side, just so that when I'm dyeing this later, it's not going to fold up nice and even. Some of it's going to be kind of a little bit crooked, so I want to make sure that I draw the same lines on the back side. So I can make my little marks here to tell me where I'm drawing these lines at. Okay, so basically what I did is I just copied the lines over. Since they ended on this side here, I just put a little mark on each side, and then the same with these ones here. So now I'm just going to connect the dots with these lines here. These will be the same ones that are on the front side or the top side. Like I say, this here is a little bit more detailed of one, but that's why I'm just trying to go slow and mark out all of these lines here so that you can see where each one of them folds here. Okay, and there's the other line. And we'll draw this last one, then we'll flip this over and I'll start folding this. So that was me just copying those same lines from the front. Oh, I won't draw quite as many, but this here's that other edge in between these two lines here. Okay, and then I'll be tying this off with kite string. So I'm just going to do accordion folds here, and let me flip this around so that I'm pointed towards you guys. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 90-degree line here. I'm going to fold up here, and then I'm going to fold this edge in also. So this line that I folded just right there on the edge there, that's folding in with this one here. And I'll put the angles in the description when I'm all done here. I'll update that with the angles that you need so that you can find them. But thank you guys for helping tell people what the angles were. So now once I get up here, I'm going to fold this in just kind of like the same way that I would fold in the peace sign. So I'm just going to raise this up and fold it right along there, just lining this up with that same line here. Like I say, this here then kind of scrunches these lines up. That's why I wanted to draw them on the other side. So we'll kind of open this up as much as we can and get those same lines folded. Okay, so I got that folded up. Looks like we already have 87 people watching. Thank you guys all for joining me here. Like I say, I'm going to do more of these sacred geometry type folds. Not all of them. I'm not going to try and do them all live because some of them are a little even more detailed than this one, but this one looked like I could fold it up, and I think I had somebody ask me about this recently. So when this came up in my meditation trying to figure out what design to do, I figured I might as well get in and do the Icosahedron. And that's basically a three-dimensional shape that has 20 equilateral triangles in it. I believe that's the term, where they're the same size on, or same length on each side. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I want to make sure that I don't pull this here out as I'm doing my other folding here, but I need to fold these other two lines up, and since they're kind of running close together here, part of it is I'm going to fold them at the same time. And that was also why I drew them on the bottom side, so that I could see where they're at, because this here isn't going to be a nice perfect fold here. And like I say, down here at the beginning, the lines, since they're so close together, they're a little bit tight, so I can't make it nice and perfect, but it's going to work out. You just have to kind of work with your folds here. So I'll usually kind of fold up a little bit on one side and then scrunch it over and fold up on the other side. And as soon as they get a little bit further apart, then the folding becomes easier. So I'm just alternating back and forth. I think that just makes it a little bit easier. If you fold all the way up on one line, then the other line is kind of warped. And this way I can make my adjustments as I'm going along here. And the other thing you guys can do, if there's a particular design on a tapestry that you want to see, I'm not going to be able to do all of them, but I will kind of look through like the comment section below this video, not in the chat room, but below the video here. If you guys put some suggestions in for tapestry ideas, I will try to incorporate those into the show whenever I can, or into other videos. But I'm just kind of playing around with my meditations and seeing what kind of ideas come to me. But sometimes I don't always have an idea right away, and that's why like today's link didn't go up until today. Usually I try to get them up a couple days early, but I still hadn't figured out what tapestry I was doing. So I just thought I would open it up to you guys. If there were specific designs that you wanted to see, I might be able to work those in. Okay, so like I say, this here is getting a little bit tight here, so you just have to keep gently working. And like I say, these last few folds here, they're not going to be nice and perfect because I got to keep my fold up right here. So this is one you just have to kind of make it work. And I'm going to kind of just scrunch it up a little bit as I go, being careful not to pull my lines out here. This is one I might have tied up with sinew just to hold it in place while I did the other tying, but I think I can still get it here. So I'm just kind of creating some more of my creases here as I scrunch this up. And then it becomes about finding all of your lines in here Like I said, I got one of them that's tucked down inside here. So I'm just going to kind of draw a little bit of extra line so I can see that when I'm dyeing it. This one might be a little bit complex for the video here, but I thought, what the heck, let's go for it. So you can see I just have to keep working with these folds in here. Basically, I'm just trying to make sure that I can see both of my lines here. And I think one of the adjustments I'm going to make is I'm going to pull this out. This here is just getting to be a little bit too tight here. So I'm going to pull this part out, and then I will just remember to dye that edge there, instead of having that tied in there. So
What are you dyeing?
I'm dyeing an Icosahedron. It's one of the Platonic Solids. So let me retie this part up here. I should have done a practice fold on one of these. I dyed one a couple years ago, but it's been a while. And this is probably what I ended up doing last time too. So that's a good reason to make sure that you mark on that, so that since it's not actually tied in, you'll remember to add dye to that edge there. But just between the two lines is all you need. Alright, maybe I'll leave this connected so that I can tie things up easier. There we go. I think that'll make this last bit of folding easier. Sorry for being so complex there. But if this hadn't been a live video, I probably could have just cut that part out. But when you do live, you just have to go for it. Once again, this here is awful tight there, but I can still make it work. So then, like I say, I'm making sure that I have access to this whole edge. And since I already have my string tied there, I'm just going to wrap this down and bring that around. Like I say, my edge is kind of curved there, so that's once again another reason to draw the same lines on the bottom side, so that when you go to dye it, you get them all the lines dyed correctly, because they're not straight with the edges here. Like I say, this is a little bit more of a complex design, but I know some of you were looking for more complex designs to try out. So now I'm just going to kind of scrunch the rest of this up here. Okay, now I'm going to fold just a little bit outside the edge here just to make sure I don't lose my outside edge. So I'm going to just tie that off out here, a couple inches away, and then the rest of this I'm going to scrunch up. Okay, we're just about ready to start adding some dye to this thing. Wrap this back down. Okay, so like I say, here's the icosahedron lines and then this one edge here. So I'm just going to make sure that that edge is kind of folded up so I can add dye to it. And I'm going to use thick black dye for this. Oh, let me get some gloves. Okay, and then the other thing I'm going to do, just to make sure I get some good dye saturation, if you put down a clean dried towel when you have kind of thick areas, and like I said, I got some thick areas here, and this here being damp, like I say on live videos, I can't let this dry. Normally I would probably let this dry out before I dye it, but if you're dyeing it damp, putting a dry, clean dry towel down underneath will help kind of pull that liquid down, because as I put liquid in the top, it kind of pushes that soda ash liquid down, and if there's a towel there, then it can pull it out. Otherwise, the liquid will just kind of pool underneath and you won't get as much movement of the dye. So I hope that makes sense. So, and I guess I can pull this a little bit closer here so that I can read the chat room now. As I'm dyeing this, I'll have a little bit more opportunity to see what's going on out there.
I got some for you.
And it sounds like Julie has some questions for me, so we will start answering some questions here as I get this dyed up.
Your class has been helping each other a lot.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think I'm ready to start putting some dye on. I'm going to go ahead and dye my lines to start with, and then we'll get some color put on the rest of this. So I'm using thick black dye. This here is something I do have a couple videos on how I make that, depending on whether you buy the sodium alginate from Amazon or you buy it from Dharma. Just how I mix those up. I prefer the stuff from Dharma, but the stuff from Amazon does mix up quicker just because it's thinner. Oh, let me take a quick peek just to make sure. Yeah, so here's my lines on the back side, and then of course that edge right there. So that's important, is to have your lines show up, because they are kind of crooked. They're not going in these straight lines here. Okay. So let's start some questions here. Why does my red stain white when I wash? The red dye, well, I guess, you know, all of the dyes, they take a little bit to set up. The red is one of the ones that seems to take longer for setting up. So if you batch for a little bit longer, I usually batch a minimum of 24 hours, but I prefer to leave my dye sit for 48. And leaving them sit for 48 hours just allows the dyes more time to bond, but also by time I add heat to mine during that 48 hours, so by time I'm doing my washout, most of the dyes are spent and they can't really back stain. But the other thing, when I do my rinsing, I will rinse in cold water with the t-shirt or tapestry still tied. I rinse for about 1 minute, and what that does is help rinse away the soda ash, because the soda ash is what activates the dyes. So you don't want that present as you release more dyes that are unbonded. So start out by rinsing in cold water, and then I turn it up to warm or hot, and I start untying it, unbanding it. And then once the water starts to run semi-clear, I don't wait until it runs all the way clear. You can if you want to, but I figure the washing machine is going to help me out with that last bit of washing, rinsing out of the dyes. But I already have, when I start my rinsing, I already start out with my washer half full of hot water and Synthropol, so that as soon as I'm done rinsing it in the sink, then I can immediately put it right into the water with Synthropol. The Synthropol is going to help keep the rest of the dyes suspended in the water rather than going back into your t-shirt. So that's going to help you with the red or whatever colors that are staining. I know usually when you're doing red, white, and blue, you're trying to leave a big white spot. So batching for longer is going to help you. Rinsing in cold water is going to help, and then putting it directly into the soda ash, or not the soda ash, the Synthropol water, or if you use Blue Dawn, that's fine too, but you want to put it immediately in there. I've had some people tell me that they do their rinsing and then they hang them up to dry, or they leave them sit in a pile for a while and then they eventually take them and wash them. And you need to wash them immediately, because if there is any dye in the white areas when you get done rinsing, that dye will set up if it's left there. So if you put it into the water immediately, then that pinkness or whatever in there will rinse back out. So I never judge a t-shirt until it's completely washed and dried. Just rinsing it is not a good judge of how it's going to look. So follow through with the washing. I hope that answers your question. And let's see, Uniquely Yours donated $50. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see this one when it's revealed on Friday. Oh yes, me too. Because I've done one other one of these and I really liked it, so, but I didn't do a video of it. I'm going to start doing more videos of the sacred geometry. And most of them will probably be just regular videos that I make and then post them rather than the live, because the live ones, sometimes it's difficult to do a detailed design in a live video. So I'm using my cuticle pusher to help press that dye down deeper into these creases here, because the thickened dye doesn't want to soak in as far. And like I say, I did dye this edge right here. This was the edge that was between the two lines there. So let's see, for a good black and how to keep it from fading to gray so much. The black is one of the most difficult colors. Like I say, one of the first things you can do is batch for longer, because Along with red, black takes a while for it to set up. So batching your blacks for longer, that's why I initially started doing the 48 hours, because I was looking to darken my blacks. And then I just liked how the rest of the colors looked, so I just started batching everything for 48 hours. I know that's difficult to wait that long, but if you just work it into your routine and start doing other things while you're waiting, then that 48 hours will slide by. And then the other thing is just the black dye that you buy. I've tried several of them, and the way that I do my black now, I have 3 different blacks from Dharma. And initially I just put a scoop of each one into my pail, my jar, and blended it up. And I like that. So then I just took all of my black powders and I poured them all into one of the 5-pound jars and shook it up. And now that's what I use to make my black dyes with. So that's one way, a few tips then to help get your blacks to be darker. And then the other thing, blacks take more dye. So I used about twice the amount of black dye powder as I do all of the rest of the colors. And the other thing, when you're blending them, the black doesn't always blend all the way up. It will leave some gunk down in the bottom of the cup. You want to make sure that you add some more water to your cup and blend the rest of that powder up, because if you just dump that black gunk out from the bottom, if you dump that out, then that means you're dumping out part of the recipe, the black dye recipe. And that can also be an issue when blacks don't turn out right. And of course with any color, like I think some of the browns, I have to do a double blend on those. There's a few other colors where if I get too much gunk when I filter it, I will do a second blend. I'll just add more water to the cup and blend it again. So hopefully that will help. Oh, and heat. I batch mine in these tubs here. So I have this rack in there that I set my dyes on, and then I put a lid on top of these, and then I put this out in the sun to bake. So that's how I add heat to my dyes. And then in the wintertime, I will stack these tubs next to a heater vent. But that's the other thing that's going to help your blacks and the rest of your colors. The heat will help your dyes set up faster also. And that's the whole key, is getting as much of the black dye to bond with your cotton fibers as possible. So also make sure that your soda ash is mixed correctly, because if your soda ash is weak, then your dyes are going to be weak. Okay, I think I got that outline pretty good. I might still add a little bit more black dye to it later, but for now I think that's good enough. We're going to get some of our regular dyes put on here. And let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Jill. She says thank you for the Infinity Heart Tapestry. She's the one that won it last week. And that's awesome. I'm going to be making more of those tapestries. I've had more people loving them, and I'm just going to kind of play with that design. And like I say, I have, I think, 2 orders left that I need to finish up, and then I'm going to start playing. Let's see. How do you become a member? There is a link, a button right below the video, but also I will post a link to my launch links, and you can, there's below the donations, there's a become a member link that you can click that, and then you just pick your amount. I have 4 different monthly amounts that you can sign up to donate. And like I say, just go to one of those links, or like I say, the join button below the video will get you there. And I appreciate all of the members that sign up and support me so that I can keep on making these videos. Good point there, Carl, on the weak soda ash equals weak dye. Yes. What advice for next level beginners? Really, the main thing with tie-dye is practice. So if you just keep practicing and trying new designs, I mean, if you look at a design and you think, oh, I don't know about that one, maybe you should try it, give it a try. And even if it doesn't turn out, you're going to kind of learn from that experience. So, oh, we got a new member here. So welcome to Dragon Tears of Love. Thank you. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate the support. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dye the Icosahedron in blue violet, but I'm going to outline it in turquoise. So let me see here. I probably should add a little bit more turquoise. So just in case anybody has these little bottles and you haven't watched my video on how to fill them, this is the way that I do it. I'll go ahead and squeeze all of the air out of the bottle here. And then, oh, I always make sure I clean the nozzle because the nozzle sometimes has soda ash on it and I don't want even the tiniest bit of soda ash mixed in with my dye. So I'll squeeze the air out, tip this bottle up in there until it kind of seats in there, and then you can just squeeze the bigger bottle to fill the little bottle. Oh, you're welcome, Anastasia. I'm glad the advice on the black will help you. Like I say, those are the tips that I try to give out. And I'm also slowly putting together a frequently asked questions page. And I'm going to get that linked up here at some point too. I just need to finish getting the questions uploaded to my site. And that hopefully will help people when they're trying to figure out things. If I haven't come on and answered them, they can maybe look up the question and answer over on the frequently asked question page. So that's coming soon too. So I'm just going along and outlining just for effect in there. I'm doing the inside the icosahedron and then I'm going to do outside the icosahedron. So I'm just putting this right along all of my black dyes here. And this here is just my own personal choice. You could just dye the whole thing solid, or you could dye each one of them a different color. So you can play with this however you like. But since I'm using blue violet to dye mine, because this here, the icosahedron is a Platonic solid and it represents water. So I'm going into blues here, and I'm only using blue violet, which is a light purple, but it bleeds out turquoise. So I just want to make sure though that these edges here have kind of a little bit darker of an edge. And I think I'll outline the outside too. Yeah, we'll make that one just a little bit thicker out here. And the other thing, when you're dyeing something with lots of layers on it, it's best, I mean, except for the thick black dye that I was pushing in with my cuticle pusher, the rest of these colors, I'm going to keep adding them onto the top, and I'll keep peeking underneath, and I want to be able to see all of the colors in these thicker areas or these tied areas where it's tighter. Sometimes those areas take a little bit longer for the dye to soak through. But just to make sure I get good saturation, since I'm dyeing this damp, I'm going to look for those colors before I actually flip it over and start dyeing it. Okay. Let's see here. We got another question. Scott's been trying to figure out how to fold a fitted sheet for a double spiral. Yeah, fitted sheet is a little bit difficult to work with just because of the elastic edge. And really what you need to do, if you can stretch that out, say like on, if you have a mattress that size, or if you can even just stretch it out over your table and get an idea of where you want the circles to be, and just use a washable marker and just tag the center of the two circles. Then you can fold those two circles together. So if you have your fitted sheet out and you put two spots like here, then later you can kind of fit those together, and then it's just a matter of kind of smoothing out those elastic edges as much as you can, and then twisting up that circle. You might have to keep adjusting. If you have another person hanging out there, you could have them put on some gloves and kind of hold the edges for you while you do your twisting. Just make sure that they don't pull the edges too tight and pull your circle back out, your spiral out. But that's one way to do a double spiral. They're going to be connected then. But if you want to have two separate spirals, then you can do the same thing. You can have those in there, but you have to kind of twist up one of them, and then I would use kite string or rubber bands, whatever, and band that one up a little bit to tie it off while you flip this around then and work on the other circle and get that one. And then you can slowly kind of scrunch the rest of it up together here, or wrap it up and then adjust your bands, your ties for your spirals. So that's how I would do it on a fitted sheet. But the elastic is the main issue with them, is just they don't lay flat. So good luck with that and have fun. Okay, let me check another question here. Oh, and thank you guys. Julie's been writing questions down, but it looks like some of you have been answering the questions for the people in there, and I appreciate that. How many ounces of liquid dye does 2 ounce, 8 ounce of powdered dye yield? How many ounces of liquid dye? Oh, I don't have the numbers for that. I know it's a lot because for 16 ounces of dye, I use 5 to 6 teaspoons. But you can get away with using just 4 teaspoons. That's what Dharma recommends on their site. I use a little bit more just because I want my colors to be darker. So it's just a matter of how much powder then is in a teaspoon. So I know you're going to get several bottles. I can't give an exact, but I would say out of a 2 ounce bottle, you probably get at least, I would say at least maybe 10 of these 16 ounce bottles. But I don't really have a number for that. I usually buy mine in the 1 pound jars, and I just use it until it's gone. But if you think you're going to be doing a lot of tie-dye, you're probably asking the question because you want to know if you should buy a 2 ounce bottle or an 8 ounce bottle. The primary colors, I would probably at least buy the 8 ounce bottles, just because those tend, at least for myself, I tend to use the primary colors more than the rest of the colors. But if you're going to be doing a lot of tie-dye, you might want to get them all in the, figure out what color I'm doing next here. You might want to get them all in the 8 ounce if you're doing a lot. But if you're just wanting to kind of try it out a little bit, you might be able to get away with 2 ounces just to test it out. Okay, now I'm going to go with sapphire blue out here around the edges, just to darken that up a little bit. So we put turquoise around all of my black lines, and then I went with blue violet in the middle here, and then this color on the outer edge is sapphire blue. And let's see, I think there was another question that just scrolled past here. On your angles, what was the reason for kite string versus sinew? Was it to eliminate white spots? Yeah, partially that. Unless I was going to dye this in a bath more where it's going to soak in, or ice dye in it, I want to be able to get my colors to soak in, and I find that if I tie these lines with sinew, then it's too tight for me to get my black dye in there, and that was my preference, is to put the black dye in. Also, I wouldn't be able to tie all of my lines. I could tie this one, and this one with the sinew, but this edge here I wouldn't be able to tie with sinew. So then that would change the flow of things. You could try to leave that white, but whether it would stay white or not, I don't know. You could try dyeing it black. This here is for some of the inner lines in there. So it would just kind of change the shape of things. So, but you could certainly do it with sinew if you want to. This here is just my preference is to use the kite string for these types of folds. And feel like you need I bet that was probably Saucy Mare that says, feel like you need 3 hands to fold that. And yes, I do sometimes. A lot of times I do have clips, but there's some instances that even a clip doesn't hold things the way that I need it to. Sometimes I'll push it all the way up against me to hold it while I'm trying to fold other things in. But yes, if I had a 3rd hand, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's see. Okay, and if you guys, when you're directing a question at me, if you put them in all caps, so I can find them easier.
I got more for you.
Let's see. Looks like Julie's got another list of questions for me here. Thank you, Julie. Why dye on a table, not a rack? For me, that's just how I learned to dye. We didn't have a rack when I first learned to dye 20 years ago. We were just doing it on a table covered with plastic. And I've tried since dyeing on a rack, and for me, it's just not convenient. One of the things I tend to do is take my bottle and tap it in there, just to kind of tap dye down inside, and when I'm dyeing on a rack, it tends to poke it through the pieces of the rack. So I've just never dyed on a rack. But once again, that's just a personal preference for me. But I know there's a lot of people that they dye on a rack. And you can still put a towel under it when you're dyeing on a rack. Like I say, the towel I think just helps if you're dyeing something that's already damp and it's got lots of layers. It's just going to help soak up some of those excess liquids, those being the soda ash, as they go down. Usually when I'm finally finished dyeing this, then the towel underneath is wet with soda ash. So now I'm just going to go back and start adding more layers of dye in here. After I add this layer, then I will check the underneath side and see how it looks. Oh, I think I'll do more of the thick black dye also. And this edge here is probably pretty good because it's not tied up, but I'll put a little bit more on it also. And like I say, with the thick black dye, I use a cuticle pusher just to help press the dye down in because it doesn't soak in as well. Which is why I don't add, if I do add thickener to my regular dyes, it's just the tiniest little bit, but lately I haven't been adding it to my dyes, only the thick dye. And part of that is because I don't go through as much dye now as I used to. I used to make up a big batch of dye water, and now I just don't do that. So anyway, okay, put another coat of blue violet, and then we'll check underneath and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm getting good. The sapphire blue is looking good out here. I'll probably add just a little bit more right close to this line here. My turquoise is looking fairly good. I'll probably add just a little bit more around there. And then I can see right here, so right next to the tide lines, I can see that I need to add a little bit more turquoise dye. And then all of my blue-violet, I think all of that looks pretty good because it bleeds out turquoise. So if I can see a little bit of turquoise, that means that that dye is soaked through. So I think just around my edges here, my tide edges, is mostly where I need to add a little bit more dye to it. Yeah, and I can feel liquid down in here. So between the soda ash and then also a little bit from the dye has already soaked through there. I guess I can scoot that over just a little bit. Let's see, Carl, do you paint? Not tie-dye paint, but just paint, wondering. No, I don't. That's not something that I was ever good at. I'm not real good at drawing stuff. I do a lot of, if I'm going to draw it by hand, it takes me a while. I usually will make a stencil. I'll find a free clip art or something that I can kind of go off of. So yeah, the painting just hasn't been something I've gotten into. Okay, I think I will add just a little bit more sapphire out here. And then the turquoise, and I will probably even tap the turquoise in just a little bit with my cuticle pusher just to make sure that it soaks through. Always just make sure that it's clean from the black dye too. Okay, we'll let that sit for a minute. I'll check more questions here. Oh, I guess there's... My bottles always dribble. How do you prevent that? Part of that is going to come down to what kind of bottles that you're using. I've had some of these dribble where they leak around the cap here. If that's where they're dribbling from, you can take some plumber's tape, which is a really thin white plasticky, well, it's not tape, but it's they call it plumber's tape, but it's just it's made from silicone, I believe, and you wrap just a couple layers around there and then screw that on, and that sometimes will take care of that. If it's leaking from the nozzle itself, really you'll probably need to get a different bottle or at least a different nozzle. I have heard somebody putting a little bit of super glue on theirs and then poking a hole through that to get a finer hole on there. But these bottles here are really nice. They got a nice fine metal tip on them, and they're good for detailed work. The other thing about your bottles dribbling, if you will squeeze a little bit of the air out when you tip it upside down, then you can kind of control just by releasing a little bit of pressure there how much dye comes out. So just squeeze a little bit of the air out, and then it just takes practice to kind of hold that in such a fashion that, there, I don't know if you can see the dripping now. So I can control that by squeezing a little bit, or I can release the pressure and the dye, you know, I can hear the air sucking up inside the bottle there. But yeah, usually it's the type of bottles that you're getting that is going to help you. And it looks like somebody says, where do you get those Pinpoint bottles from? I bought these on Amazon, and they're called, the brand is Benecrete. And I do have some links around. I'll try to get one posted in the description of this video when we're all done. But I think they are listed under glue bottles. Okay, let's grab another towel and flip this. Oh, let me peek at it first. Okay, I think I'm getting good saturation in all my areas, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. So I'm just going to put another towel down since this one here is already wet. And this will just help, once again, soak up some of that extra liquid, whether it's from the dye or the soda ash. That's one of the other things. If you get too much liquid flowing around in there, then you can have some of your colors merging and making your dyes look a little muddy. So that's another reason to try to avoid having too much liquid in there. So I thought I'd start by putting another coat of my thick black dye on this side. And then I'm going to, well, let me tap that in first. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to outline all of my black lines with turquoise. And then we're going to fill in all the other spaces inside with blue violet. And I like that the blue violet bleeds out turquoise, so that's why I wanted to outline with turquoise here, just to kind of blend in those colors a little bit. But I'm leaving that turquoise shine there. I'm not covering that turquoise up. Okay, let's see. Where do you buy your children's cotton dresses? I don't really dye the kids' dresses anymore. I used to dye a bunch of them when I did the Salem Saturday Market, and at that time I was just buying them from Dharma. I hadn't really found any other place, but I do think that I've seen some people talk about Peaceful People on the tie-dye pages. That might be a place to check for children's dresses, but otherwise I just bought a few of the basic ones off of Dharma. I know they're a little bit more expensive than some of the wholesale places, but they do have a wide variety of dresses on there, and that was what I liked. And I usually just bought some of the basic ones unless somebody specifically wanted a fancier dress. And then at that point I just charged more for that dress. That's always an option. And let's see. And usually on this second side, I don't need to add too much dye. I usually will add one or maybe just a little bit of touch up here and there if I see white spots. But since I have the good dye soaking through from the bottom, that tells me that all the layers inside should be fairly well coated. So, and this here was the only place that looked like, these two places where it's tied tighter, looked like two places that needed just a little bit of extra dye. But all the rest of it had really good color soaking all the way through there. So I think we're going to call that good. We're going to batch this for 48 hours. Let's get all this stuff put away so we can clean up the space and move into the next thing here. Oh, I think I wanted to put some cobalt on this outer edge here. So this here is just like a dark navy type blue. I'm not going to coat it entirely, but I'm just going to kind of add a little bit just for some more texture out here. So I'm not dyeing this solid with the cobalt. I'm just kind of making some lines so that I just have just a little bit of texture on that outer edge. I just like some movement. Now I'm going to batch this for 48 hours, and then of course I'll do my rinse out and reveal video on Friday. Alrighty. Get this cleaned up and I'll break out the tapestry and show you guys what we got going on. And anybody that wants to see the Rainbow Circles Tapestry in full, you can go to my launch links. I just posted that in the chat box again. That's where you can see the whole thing, but I'll spread it out here as much as I can to show that to you. And then we'll get on with the more questions here. I'll see what other questions are in the box and whatever Julie has for me. But also at this point, if you can make sure to put your questions in capital letters, that just makes it easier for me to find them. And it looks like we finished up 2:37, so that's a good time for the tutorial to be done in an hour. We'll be done with the gloves. Oh, Alyssa, you must be in the UK. It's late for you over there. Like I say, the rest of this is going to be the auction and the Q&A session. Oh, it looks like we got a few people from the UK. And I know Saucy Mare's over there too. Okay. So what we have here is the Rainbow Circles from last week. So this here is officially up for auction, so you guys can place your bid just in the comment section here. So we got the smaller rainbow circle in the middle, and then the larger rainbow circle all around the edges here. And remember, I dyed them opposite. So this one here, I have the fuchsia down at the bottom and the turquoise and purple up at the top, and then on the outer circle I flopped them so that it would change the colors around. Anyways, I really like how this one looks. So you guys can place your bids, and I'm going to start looking for questions and answer those. Let's see. Do you mix your own colors or use them as they come? Dick Blick's teal is on back order. I'm wondering if it's possible to mix a teal with other things I have on hand. Mostly I mix mine however they come, but yes, I do some of my own mixing. So like my bright green is one that I will mix myself with the powders. I do 3 parts lemon yellow and 1 part turquoise to mix my green here. But there's other times where I'll just break out one of these smaller, not one with water in it, but I'll break out a smaller bottle. And if I need to mix up a color, I'll usually do that. So for teal, that's a blue-green. So what I would do, if you have a green on hand, personally what I have on hand is emerald green. So I would start with emerald green, and then I would add turquoise to that just to kind of make it more bluey for the teal. And then from there, you can test drops on a piece of paper towel to see how you're doing in the mixing of the color and if you need to add a little bit more. The main thing I do is I might start with a smaller bottle, you know, one of these really tiny bottles, and just kind of pay attention to how much of each color I put in there, so that when I move up to a bigger bottle, because whenever you're dyeing a t-shirt, you want to make sure that you have enough dye for the whole t-shirt, because it's hard to mix it exactly the same. So I would mix up the second bottle, do the same testing process, and once I have it the way that I like it, then I go ahead and dye the t-shirt. So yes, you should be able to mix teal up if you have some green and you have some blue. And even if you don't, you can kind of use your primary colors, your turquoise and your yellow, to make the green, and then just add more of the blue, the turquoise, in there to make it more of a blue-green. So I hope that helps you. And let's see. Let me see if we got a bid yet. Oh, yes. Jess has the opening bid at $50. So thank you, Jess. Let's see. What colors would I use to make a jade green? Okay, I think Julie did something, and I think my video went a little hazy here, so, but I think it's back again. Okay, so the...
I did nothing. You're back.
Okay. Okay, so for the jade green, to me that looks almost like the emerald green color. So it looks more yellowy than just a regular green. So I would take your green, whatever green that you have, the brightest looking green, and add more yellow to it to get it into the jadey color. Now some of the other jade that I'm seeing is more of a pale green. So it really depends on which jade you're going for. The pale green, you would probably want to lighten that up some by watering it down, but sometimes there's some colors that I can't just look at and mix them up. So okay, let me check something else here. Okay, I went ahead and plugged my phone back in just in case it was my phone. But maybe we had a little glitch here in the house, and our internet blinked out for a minute, because Julie had said something. I don't know what she said, but anyways, I think we are back and live again. I apologize for that if it was on my end. Let's see here. We still have the opening bid from Jess at $50 on this. This here is the Rainbow Circles from last week. Just in case you guys got kicked out when I was doing this, I didn't pay attention that we were down, so. But it looks like everybody is saying that they're back. Okay, let me scroll down and see. Can you make gold? Yeah, for gold, I start with lemon yellow, and I add just the tiniest bit of orange to it. So I would start with, depending on how much you're making, I would start with just a few drops or just a little squirt, and then test it on your paper towel. And it's always going to be a little bit lighter than what it shows up on the paper towel, but that's the way that I would make gold, is start with yellow and add some orange to it. And if you don't have orange, then I would add an even smaller amount of fuchsia to it. Okay, and it looks like we had a bid for 60, and now we have a bid for 65 from Jess for the Rainbow Circles. Let's see, don't fix what isn't broke, Carl. Measurement of the tapestry. This one here measures about 54 inches by 56 inches. And it's one of the Sunshine Joy tapestries. So it has the loops on the corners for hanging. And then on the top and the bottom, it has the hemmed edge. And then on both sides, it has the selvage edge, which, is a really nice finish on there. It's nice and clean. So these are the tapestries, and then usually what I do is I'll sign it down here in this bottom corner. Usually signed in black, but since this one here is in black already, then I'll sign this one here in the silver pen here. So, unless somebody specifically requests me not to sign it, but I haven't had anybody do that. So, anyways, so we got a $70 bid from Saucy Mare. Thank you. And let's see, are you still planning on doing the VW tutorial? I plan to try stitching sometime soon, can't wait. Yes, I am. Like I say, I'm just about done with my custom orders. I think I have 2 left that I need to finish out. Let's see, we have a bid from TieDye for $75 for the tapestry. So once I finish up with those, then that's going to free me up a little bit more to do other things if I'm not working on custom orders. And the videos is one of the things I want to get to. I have several ideas for things, and then also I want to get in and just start playing with some of my own designs. I plan on making a bunch of tapestries. I do have some for sale already out in an album, and like I say, there's a link here in the launch links if you wanted to see the other tapestries I have. But I do plan on making a bunch more tapestries. So let's see, could you demonstrate how to get the nice, tight, crisp lines in a heart and wigwag V parts? Wigwag, that one there, I mean, I'm not quite sure what you mean by heart and wigwag. The crisp white lines come from working with the sinew. So you fold something up, and then you wrap the sinew around it, and then you pull that. I'm not going to do it on this tapestry, but you pull that really nice and tight. And usually you need some sort of a holder. I have one of these sinew dowels that I got from Nikolai Savin, and he is from Russia, and he sells them out of his Facebook page. He's also on a couple of the tie-dye pages. This one here is nice because it has the little fitting on the end, so you can attach this to your power drill and fill up your sinew dowel. Some people, they'll use a broomstick. But something you need to be able to hold on to it nice and tight so that you can pull it very tight. That's what creates the white lines. And then I'll usually wrap it a few more times and pull it tight. And sometimes that's still not quite enough, so you might wrap it a few more times and pull it tight. If you can pull it tight enough, I think probably between 3 and 6 wraps is enough. But if you're not pulling it tight enough, then you might try, 9 or 12 wraps just to try to get that white line on there. So I hope that. And then as far as the wigwag, that's not one that I can explain here, but basically it's an accordion fold. And then I apply my dye going up. Instead of across the lines, I'm going up the t-shirt, and I just do a zigzag. And I do plan on doing a video for that also. So I hope that answers your question, Marissa. I agree with someone else that I like the shirt you got on. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this one here is called the Quantum Scrunch, and I do have a video out on how I made this one here. So thank you. Hi Amber, happy hump day. I just ordered my first batch of Dharma Procyon dyes. Can't wait to use them. Oh, you're gonna love them. I love the colors that these provide. Can you show it again? Oh, the tapestry, is that what you're wanting to see? I will spread this back out again. So like I say, this here's got the rainbow circle in the middle, and then around the edge there's another rainbow circle. So it goes from the fuchsia and purple down into the orange, yellow, green, and then the blue and purple down at the bottom, and then back up and around the other side with the yellow and orange and fuchsia again. So, and then the circle in the middle, the colors are just flip-flopped. So I dye them differently, top and bottom. And then in the middle, this here is looking like I used the blue violet in there, and then I put black over top. I can't remember for sure. I might have put turquoise down first, then blue violet, then black. But anyways, it was in the video last week. So I hope that was the question. All right, let's get this closer again. I drew someone's dog for them once, and they bought it for me, and I let them set the price. Bad move on my part. Oh yes, you got to set your prices. I have a dowel on its way to me now. Awesome. I mean the actual fold at the tip of the heart and the crosses. Oh, I see. Yeah, on the infinity tap. Is that the one that you're talking about that I did the week before last? So on that one there, once again, it just comes down for getting the white lines in there. It's a matter of pulling that sinew tight enough. I'm not sure what else, unless are you wanting me to do the fold again? Because if that's the case, then it's just a matter, if you go back, the other video is up and you can find the infinity scrunch video and just watch that one again. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to get caught up here. Carl, reminds me of the buffering circle. I don't know why. Yes, I can see that. Yep. The color, although my buffering circle would be in rainbow. So, okay, and it looks like we have a $80 bid for the tapestry from Vivian. I'll probably be closing this out soon. Value yourself and your work, Saucy. Yes. Love the tutorials. They have made me improve dramatically, and also have done some Facebook live reveals to friends. Always like a Christmas. Yes. That's why I call it Hippie Christmas. So you're welcome, Miranda. I'm glad to be of help. I love to help other people have success with this art. And I'll get down to the bottom here. Like I said, I do see an $80 bid from Vivian, but there might be more down below here. So as I get down lower, I'll announce those. How do you set your prices for your shirts and tapestries and such? Never know how much to charge. That's been a difficult one for me. The way that I did it in the past was I kind of looked around at what other people were charging, and I tried to see where my quality of work was compared to theirs. And then I kind of help judge, the price from there. Another part of it is how much time, so like a spiral, it only takes so much time, but if you're doing a very intricate fold and tying with sinew, then that t-shirt needs to be priced more than like a rainbow spiral, because a rainbow spiral, you can usually tie that up and dye it in a very short amount of time, and there's other tie-dye designs that might take you, 30 to 40 minutes or an hour. My stitch designs, those ones took several hours to do those, so I charged anywhere from $65 up to $125, depending on how detailed those were. So, and then there is another page on Facebook called Tie-Dye Selling Strategies. And that's a place where they do discuss prices and stuff and how to help set prices. So that might be a page to check out. And you're welcome, Marissa. Did I sub the right one? Okay. Oh, thank you, Pam. I got my training from working in the schools with all the kids. That's where I got all my practice, and I think it really set me up perfect to do these videos. I lost my mojo due to the loss of my mother. How do you get your mojo back? She loved my work. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your mother, but as far as getting your mojo back, sometimes it's a matter of sitting down and just almost forcing yourself to do some tie-dye. And sometimes in that process of doing it, then if you just kind of let your mind go blank, if you need to, you can put on a little bit of music so that you're not thinking so much in your head, and just try to get into the flow of working on the t-shirts. And then at some point you might start getting the ideas for other things I mean, that's how sometimes I get into a little bit of a slump, and that's how I get myself back out of it, is just by sitting down and doing the tie-dye. And as soon as an idea flows into my head, then I'll usually go ahead, I might even stop the one that I'm working on, push it aside, and break out a new t-shirt and start on the new one with the new idea for that. So another way that you can help inspire yourself is go over to one of the tie-dye pages and look at everybody else's work. And sometimes seeing somebody else's work will inspire an idea of something you want to try. You might see that and say, oh, I like that, but I'm going to try it in these colors, or I'm going to try it a little bit differently. Sometimes completely stepping out of your comfort zone. So whether you go to my channel or there's lots of others. There's Crispy and Roslyn Rags, and I mean, there's a whole ton of people doing videos. And just go to the channel and just pick one of those out and try something completely new, and that might help snap you out of your slump and get you back into dyeing again.
Even try a different medium.
And Julie suggests maybe even trying a different medium. So just do something different. So maybe try a little bit of drawing, or maybe go take some pictures. So just try a different form of art, and maybe that might help snap you out of it too. You might start drawing something and then think, oh, I could do this in tie-dye. So I hope that helps. I want to thank you. Watching you has helped my family get so much better at doing tie-dye. We still have a problem with red washing everything to pink, but working on it. Okay, that's great. Now, hopefully I talked about pink the red going into pink earlier in this video, so you might be able to go back and listen to some of the tips I gave before. And let's see, I think I haven't scrolled all the way to the bottom, but let me check. We still have a bid from Vivian at $80, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and see if we have any others. Looks like $80 is the high bid, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out in just a couple minutes. So if anybody else wants to bid on the Rainbow Circles, now is the time to get your bids in. I'm going to answer another question or two, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this unless I get some more bids. But right now, the high bid is sitting at $80 from Vivian. All tie-dye is unique, but do you have any tips for consistency? The girls at work want me to do tie-dye shirts so we can wear it at work. I know they won't be exactly the same, but how can I make them alike? Part of that depends on what design you're doing, but if I want consistency, I usually try to do them all at the same time, so that if I'm doing a spiral design, I can make sure that I'm laying each one down the same way, and as I twist it up and I put my bands on, I try to pay attention to like where the collar or the sleeve or something is, so that I can line my bands up the same way. If you're doing, any other, an oval type shape, you can even like cut a stencil out so that you can get the same shape oval on there and do your pleats that way. But I think really doing them all at the same time is the way to get as close as you can. If you want to make two of them really close to the same, I have a video called, I think, couple dyes or twin dyes, and that's where I take one t-shirt and I stick it inside of another, and I tie them up together and dye them at the same time. And those are, slightly different, but they're almost exactly the same. So that's the closest way. So if you have, 6 people, you can stuff t-shirts inside of each other and do 3 of them, and then that will get you even closer to having exactly the same t-shirts. So I hope that helps. Phone is going to die, TV turned on, so... Yep, bye-bye, Alyssa. Thank you for joining us, and yep, keep on watching. We're going to be closing this out soon. Oh, looks like Saucy Mare bid $85 for this, so we'll let this run for another couple minutes here. Thank you, Saucy. Yes. Thank you, Dragon Tears of Love. She said similar folds or see the twins video he has. Yes. You're welcome, Michael. I'm glad to be of help. Lisa, see you next week. Music always... Oh yes, music is another thing. Is inspirational. I'm looking for cerulean blue, but it's sold out of Dharma. Any suggestions? I would try the other dye houses. So there's Grateful Dyes in Colorado. There's Custom Colors in North Carolina. And I'm not sure where ProChem is, but that's another place that you can check. And then I know Paula Birch has a list of websites, and they list out several different places. I'm not sure how many of them are, good links. I don't know if she keeps those updated or not, but that is another place that you can check. Is the Paula Birch site, and she'll give you links to more places and also places around the world. I'm slowly going to be compiling a list of where people buy their dyes around the world just to try to help out. So like the people in the UK, I don't know if you guys all buy your dyes from the US or if you have sources over in the UK or in Europe. But at some point I'll probably do a questionnaire on Facebook, and I'll do one on YouTube and just ask for help of where you buy your dyes. So like the people in the UK right now, you could even throw that in the comment section. If there's a source that you buy from outside of the US, let me know, and I'm going to compile a list for everybody. Okay, so we're still sitting at 85 for the high bid from Saucy Mare. Let's see. My black keeps coming out gray. Any tips? Mixing it darker is one of the things that you can do. I use twice the amount of dye. Batching it longer is going to help. I batch all of my stuff for a bare minimum of 24 hours, but I prefer to leave them for 48 hours, especially the black. And I add heat to that. That is going to help the dyes set up faster. And then the other thing with the black, sometimes adding salt to your dye. So if I'm mixing up 16 ounces of dye, I would add 1 tablespoon of salt to my dye. That is supposed to help improve the color of black, and the Glauber's dye is also supposed to help improve the color of the turquoise. So, and I'll look for other tips on there, but I think those are the main things. Mixing it stronger, batching it longer, adding heat, and adding salt will help your black. And thank you for everybody else that's helping answer that question too. Amber Crafts on eBay, it's Procyon. Okay, great, thank you. Saucy Mare, I take it that's over in the UK. Oh, that's good to know. Table salt. I would imagine you could use table salt. I would get the non-iodized kind just because you don't need extra minerals in there. But I usually use Glauber's salt or close enough mix to that. I buy mine from Amazon, and I can put a link to the salt in the description here of where I buy mine, but I buy mine in 40-pound bags just so I have it. Let's see. Okay, so I think we're going to close out the bidding soon. So once again, the high bid is sitting at 85 from Saucy Mare right now. So I will leave this open for another minute, and if it doesn't, no more bids come in, then I'll go ahead and close this out at 85 to Saucy Mare. Let me see here. I don't see any other bids. I have one side. I have a on side. Onesie going to dye. Any tips? Okay. Onesie is, being smaller, it's harder to get some of the fancier designs. It's usually easier. I usually do spirals with those, but it's just a matter of just taking your time and trying to kind of smooth everything out. If you're going to do pleats, you can do smaller pleats with those, but it's really about just taking your time and making sure that you get your creases set in there, because it is a smaller piece of fabric. And then dyeing them with these smaller tip bottles helpful. If you don't have the small tip bottles, then what I would do is hold your onesie in your hand, and if you're using a bigger bottle, then you can just tip the bottle up just far enough so that just a little bit of dye comes out, because when you tip it all the way upside down, then you get too much dye and it goes everywhere. So I would, what?
An adult onesie.
An adult onesie. Oh. Well, anyways, so when you are dyeing small things, like I say, that's the easiest way. If you don't have the smaller tip bottles, is just to hold your bottle in your hand at an angle and then just tip it up a little bit to get the dyes out. As far as the adult onesies, like the union suits from Dharma, is that what you're talking about? Those ones there, I usually fold the same kind of designs that I would do on a t-shirt, and then you just have to incorporate the legs in there. So if you're doing a spiral, when you get down to the end, you just wrap the arms and the legs around there. If you're doing a pleated fold, I would pleat the body of it first, and then you can kind of pleat the legs and the arms up. But it's just a matter of working with it. I know it just kind of feels like an octopus, because you got the legs and the arms that want to go every which direction. But I would focus on the body of it first, and then get the arms and the legs tied in. Let's see, how do you apply the lettering like on your Teach Peace t-shirt? For that, I use a stencil, and oh, there it is. So I made myself a Teach Peace stencil here. I don't know if you guys should be able to see that. So I usually I'll take a washable marker, draw this on, and then I use thick black dye and paint it on there. So I usually will go ahead and dye the t-shirt first in rainbow colors or whatever colors I'm doing, batch that, wash it, and then I will spray it with soda ash water. So I have one of these bottles here, and I'll just spray it with soda ash water, let it dry. I also make sure that I put something inside the t-shirt, so I have a board that I will stick in there, because the thick black dye will soak through to the back of the t-shirt. And then I just color that in, and then I let it dry. And when you're doing the dye painting, you need to use the urea in your, so my preferred method of mixing the thick black dye is what you want to do, because it has the urea, or you want to make sure you add it to the other stuff. But the urea is going to help keep the dye wet longer, because that's what you need. That's when the dye is actually batching or is bonding with the cotton, is while it's wet. If it dries out, then it's no longer bonding, and you'll get whatever dye bonded, and that's all that will bond there. So that's how I would do that. And I do have one video on dye painting, and you can look that up, or I will try to remember. Let me make a note here. I will put that in the description. Okay, let me check to see if we had any more bids on this here. If not, then we're going to close this out. But I think, let me scroll back to make sure. We had Saucy Mare at 85. And now I'm going to check to see if there's any other bids. Okay, I don't see any other bids. So we're going to go ahead and close this out. So we have $85 going once. $85 going twice. $85 going 3 times. and sold to Saucy Mare for $85. And I will, if you go ahead and send me your mailing address, Saucy Mare, congratulations. I will do a check to see what the shipping is to you in the UK, but it's more than likely going to be $24. That's what prices have been in the past, but I will verify that and then you can pay. But congratulations, you now have the Rainbow Circles, and I will get this signed, and like I say, I will send you an invoice for your total as soon as I know your shipping address. So thank you. And let me see if we got any more. Oh, sorry about that, Amber. Yeah, I know sometimes when you're buying supplies, you got to figure out where you want to spend your money at. Do you want to buy a new tie-dye or do you want to buy dyes? But you will have lots of fun mixing some of your own tie-dyes.
I was just wanting to see if you get one particular question. Probably down. Oh wait, up a little. That's it right there. That's the one.
Oh, okay. Let's see, what's the easiest way to rinse out your t-shirts? I dye 20 to 30 shirts at a time. I feel like a water waster. What I usually will do is I do the initial rinse in cold water by itself. That's when I'm rinsing away the soda ash. And I will try to, if I have a whole bunch of shirts, I'll try to kind of separate out and rinse the same color t-shirts at a time. So if I'm doing like a bunch of rainbow spirals, I will start those. I'll rinse one. I have a double sink, so that makes it easier for me. So I'll rinse one in cold water, set it down there in the bottom, and then I'll take the next one and I'll rinse it in cold water, stack it on top of the other rainbow t-shirt, rinse another one, stack it on top, and I'll usually get like 5 or 6 t-shirts stacked up there. Move my water over, and then I'll rinse where it's going down over top of, you know, like all 6 t-shirts, and then I'll turn it up to warm and start unbanding the top t-shirt. I'll rinse that, and I'll let all the water run down over the other 6 t-shirts, and then I'll usually will grab another t-shirt, put it in the other sink, do the cold rinse on it, and then I can move it onto the bottom of the pile, and I just keep working through. And I'll wash, maybe if I'm doing adult shirts, I'm probably doing between 10 and 15 t-shirts in a load at the max. But if you have a really big washer, you could probably wash more. I just don't like to fill it completely up. I don't do a big load. I do about a half load in my washer. If I'm doing kids t-shirts, I have washed up to 20 or 25 t-shirts at a time. But with 20 or 30 t-shirts, I would probably split that into 2 loads and try to do it in as close as the same color scheme as you can, just so that you can stack more t-shirts up on top of each other and just keep rinsing. And I'll every now and then lift the t-shirt up, squirt a little bit of water in between each one of the t-shirts. So like if I have them in here, I'll rinse on top, and then I'll rinse under here, and then I'll rinse under here, just to try to keep them all nice and clean. But once you get the soda ash out of there with the cold water, then it's easier to stack them up on top of each other without them splitting. And then another thing, I haven't done much of it myself, but I've heard some people that they will soak their t-shirts in a pail or a bucket of water for a while to help get the soda ash out and get some of the initial dye out, and then they'll go into the rinsing. But that way the big bucket is filled up once for a whole bunch of t-shirts. So that's another way, and I'm going to kind of play with that a little bit this summer, just to kind of test it out and see how long I can soak t-shirts for without having dye transfer. So I hope that helps you out. Have you done a second batch dye process after you've rinsed out? Usually if I'm going to rinse the t-shirt out, I usually will go ahead and do the whole washing, and then I tie it up again, and then I've done more. I'll soak it again, add more dye to it. Sometimes I'll add some of the same colors to it, or other times I will tie it up like a Lawn Star design. I'll use the sinew, tie it up really nice and tight, and then put either like a cobalt or black over top of it. And I do have a video that's called Over Dye, and that it kind of explains that process of doing a second dye on a t-shirt. Okay. Oh, let me scroll. It looks like I'm behind now. I'll try to get caught up here. Oh yes, you'll love the new dyes, Amber. Yes, the tulip dyes, they're okay, but they just don't compare to the brightness that you get out of the Procyon dyes. Heard that you can use Dawn dish soap or cheap dollar store soap instead of Synthepol. Is it legit? I haven't heard about the dollar store stuff, but I know a lot of dyers use Blue Dawn dish soap because it too is pH neutral. So I would say yes to the Dawn. I would say I don't know.
And they do sell it at the dollar store. They sell Dawn at the dollar store.
Okay. Julie says they do sell the Blue Dawn at the dollar store. But as long as it's Blue Dawn, but if it's another type of soap, I can't recommend that because I haven't seen it. The main thing I know about Synthepol and Blue Dawn is they're pH neutral. And when you add soda ash, what you're doing is raising the pH, and then when you rinse in cold water, you're rinsing away the soda ash, which lowers the pH. So when you put your t-shirt in the washing machine, you want to put it in a pH neutral solution. If you have regular laundry detergent in there, sometimes those have soda ash in it, so then the pH is back up again. And if you have any excess dyes floating around, then they can bond and make your dyes look muddy or backstained, especially if you're doing red, white, and blue. So the Synthepol, I don't know if I mentioned that before, but the Synthepol is going to help with the red, white, and blue, keeping your whites white instead of letting them get backstained. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, doing tie-dye definitely uses more water. So yep, that's good. Just add it right into your tie-dye supplies, basically. Okay. Do you use fabric softener? Nope, I don't use anything when I'm doing my washing and rinsing of my tie-dyes. When we're doing our regular laundry, I think Julie might use a little bit, but for all of the prepping and then the after thing, I don't use anything other than just Synthepol. So the fabric softener, I'm not sure just what all it has in it, so I don't want to take any chance that's going to mess something up in the initial rinsing out of my tie-dyes. After they're completely rinsed out, you've done your third hot wash and you're getting no color coming out. At that point, then you could probably use fabric softener and treat it like regular laundry. So did you tell how to wring out the soda ash in a t-shirt in lock washing machine? Yeah, something I think went messy there, but yeah, basically what I do is I'll squeeze out as much as I can by hand. Some people have one of those mop wringer buckets that they use the handle to squeeze it out with, but then putting it into the washing machine on the spin cycle, making sure that you don't have water that spits during that cycle. If it does, you can usually set that cycle to halfway through and then spin out the excess soda ash. But if you don't have one of those, some people will buy a portable spinner. I've seen them on Amazon for like $130. And I don't know how many t-shirts you can spin out at a time, but that's another option. And that way you can save all of the soda ash that comes out of your t-shirts. Let's see. Oh, good night, Lissa. Good to see you. You have a nice week, and we'll see you next week. Rainbow Warrior for life. Awesome. Is it normal for soda ash to make a shirt hard after they're tied and dried before dyeing? Yeah, sometimes, I don't know why some of them are more crusty than others. But yeah, sometimes I'll have a t-shirt that it feels really stiff, and I think it's just because of the soda ash in there, and that's perfectly fine. When you go to dye that, sometimes the dye will want to roll off of the t-shirt rather than soak right in, and the way to stop that is by using a spray bottle with soda ash and just lightly spray the top and the bottom. And then that way when you put your dyes on, they will soak right in. Is Synthropol like Tide? No, it's not. Synthropol is a liquid soap. I don't think I have any here, but it's just a clear liquid soap, and I know it's pH neutral. I'm not sure about Tide. Oh, thank you, Alan, for answering that. I appreciate when you guys get in and answer questions if you know the answers to them. That definitely helps, especially even out on the other videos. I've seen people doing that. And over on the Facebook pages. Oh, good night, Cassie. Yes, I know it's getting late. See you next week. Peace, love, and light. Okay, I'm probably going to close this out soon here. I'm not seeing any more questions for me. Yeah, the one way Amber said she doesn't like it when the soda ash dries on it. One of the things you can do is put them in a plastic bag, or I have a plastic tub. I guess you guys can't see it here, but I have a plastic tub with a lid that I store mine in. That usually will keep them nice and damp for 2 or 3 weeks. They do start to dry out eventually. If I leave them in there too long, when they're wet, then they might start mildewing. So I try to make sure I don't leave them in there longer than 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see. I end up rinsing them out with water and soaking them again. Oh, thank you, Brian. It was good to see you. And once again, thank you to all of the people that signed up now and before. And we got a lot of members on my channel, so that's really helpful. So thank you guys and all the new people coming in. Okay, a big wave, love, feedback. I got some dying and tying waiting game. Yep, the waiting game. Big fun. Okay, everybody. I am going to go ahead and close this out for the week. Thank you for everybody popping in to join me. I'm looking forward to doing my washout on Friday. And you guys have a wonderful week. Make sure you go out there and tell your loved ones that you care about them. Wave at your neighbors. And just try to have a good, fun day. Peace, love, and light. I love you all. Oh, peace, love, light, and laughter. Yes, got to have some laughter out there. I love you guys. You have a good week, and we will see you next week. And hopefully I will be starting to get some more videos put out there. So you guys have a wonderful day.